honor everybody's time and commitment. So the first item on the agenda is a welcome and roll call. So let me just, are we being recorded now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my official welcome, Richard West, as board chair for Fast Forward Charter High School. And I'd like to welcome you to the board meeting. Today is April 26th, 2021. It's a Monday. That's just for the record, Lynn. That's not pointing out any other things. That's just for the record. So since I have no idea how you're set up on your screen, I can't say, let's go left to right. So I'll just call your name and you can introduce yourself. So Alex.
Alex Garrett, assistant principal.
Teresa.
Teresa Olson, a board member.
Jill.
Jill Lowe, principal.
Lynn.
Lynn Hobbs, a board member.
Ryan.
Ryan Marchant, business manager.
Okay. Kathy.
Kathy Anderson, special ed director.
Wonderful. And Mason. I don't think it's
Kim
Mason.
Penman. My daughter. Yeah, so it's Kim Penman. I'm the community board member, one of them.
She's one of our parents.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And we think we're going to be joined by our representative from the Logan City Board of Education, Frank Stewart. He he indicated that he would be here, and we'll give it a shot. Let's go ahead. Let me first of all ask if there are any changes to the agenda that anyone has noted. And there is the agenda in all of its glory. Although it looks a little bit more elaborate than the one I printed out.
Yeah, so if you guys will notice the Title IX policy, it includes, underneath that, there's a few policies that we need to include in that. But they all kind of fall under the Title IX.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, all of the items on the agenda, at least the specific issues remain the same. I think they're just a little bit more detail under item 4, the Title IX policy adoption. We're going to need board action on which items? Certainly 4, 5, 6, 3. Okay. All right, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we will be prepared to invite motions to adopt or revise or whatever you choose to do on those items. The others are simply reports that we will receive, and valuable reports that will create a necessary context for all of the action that we take. So let's move forward. I've heard no objections to the agenda as presented. So let's move to item number 2 on the agenda, financial review, fiscal year 21. Ryan?
Okay, thank you. And Alex, oh, there we go. Perfect. You're all over it. So it's usual for those of you that have been on our board for a long time, and that's several of you. This is just a review that we kind of run down through with revenues and expenses. For those of you that are new or have never seen this report, this is just kind of a highlight of the backup that's behind it. I sent the document out to board members, and hopefully you have had a chance to review that a little bit anyway. If you have any questions, we can talk about it. And if you even go home and review it some more and have additional questions, please call me at any time. I'm always available, or email. Either way is fine. But I try to hit, like I said, we try to hit some of the highlights here. A lot of our financials, the highlights are a lot the same. The numbers just kind of change. So keep an eye on the general numbers and kind of where we are. Then I'll kind of put that in perspective of where we've been in prior years and kind of where we're going. I will say that Fast Forward's really going through some cool growth right now. And that presents some challenges that Jill and Alex and the staff at Fast Forward have been taking care of as far as just a growth. But it also presents a lot of opportunities for us on the financial side, which, you know, we won't bear those fruits out for another 6 months or so. But as our student headcount has gone up, of course, that means more revenue for us. And then, of course, out of this last legislative session, despite being in a pandemic the prior year, Utah actually came out pretty well financially. So we ended up getting a 6% increase in the base WPU. And also some increases in our property tax funding, which was also huge for charter schools. So having increase in growth and enrollment, and then also with some increases in funding that came from the legislature, we feel like we've got a lot of great opportunities ahead of us. Plus there's some federal dollars that we have applied for and we have received or will be receiving for some extra grants that we'll be doing, and we can talk about those as well. But let me kind of get into the meat of the financials here. So revenues for July 20th through March of 21 were above our approved budget. They were approximately almost $2 million. You can see 1.989 million there versus a budget of 1,944,000. So in excess of $44,000. We did receive a COVID-19 stipend money from our school that we did pass out. We received that in February, and we didn't really anticipate those numbers coming in our budget when we put it together. So, but we have actually passed that stipend on to our teachers as well. We received the money in the end of February. I think on March the 15th is when we passed that out. So. And I'll get into a little more detail on that too. We actually, the state gives you an allotment, you spend it, and then if there's anything left, which we did have, we actually need to send a check back to the state. So I think we owe the state about $13,000 after it's all said and done, but I'll show you that. Included in total revenue, restricted sped revenues of about $160,000, of which we have a separate allocated budget, which we can show you that as well. These are kind of different from our IDEA funds, which is a federal funding source for special ed that we use to pay for Kathy, who's here today on this call. And she'll be talking a little bit later, but we use that to pay an offset, a portion of her salary, and then whatever's left, we actually pay cover with state special ed funds. The CAPSA grant, which has been really good for us, that's one that Jill wrote. For an extra counselor, we've received about $53,000 in reimbursable expenses there. So far, we've received about $835,000 in regular K through 12 and $484,000 in charter school local replacement. Again, these are our two largest funding sources throughout the year and always have been. CTE funding totaled $80,340, and we use these to pay for both equipment, which we have picked up, and then salaries for our CTE program. And then we also we're a comp guidance school. So that means our program's been reviewed by the state to participate in the comp guidance program. And we receive about $20,000 in funding there. That helps offset a portion of our salary for our counselor. And that's helpful for us. School trust lands, again, we received about $41,000 this year. And I think Jill will be talking a little bit about that and how that was spent. But those dollars have been spent according to the plan. And then national school, which is about $19,820. The one part I didn't put on here was, again, I think we talked about it, but we did receive the COVID-19 stipend, which I think was about $60,000, something like that. On to some expenses. If nobody has questions on revenue, total expenses for the same time period of FY21 were $1,831,000 versus a budget expense of $1,764,000. So consequently, net income is about $149,000 versus a budget of $179,000. So a variance of about $29,000. That kind of, again, relates back to the COVID-19 stipend, and then just a little bit more wages on the salaries that we have for our teachers. For FY21, we've spent about 78% of our approved $2.3 million budget, and we are about 75% of the way through the school year. So I think we'll meet again, unless the board feels differently, but I anticipate meeting again in June to pass a final budget. and do stuff like we always do in that June board meeting to kind of bring our budget up to where it needs to be if we need to make some changes. Year to date for FY21, salaries for instructors were $603,000 versus a budget of $554,000, and the overage was once again due to the one-time COVID-19 stipend. Employee benefits are $280,000 versus a budget of $284,000. And as we discussed in prior months, this is mostly due to health insurance premiums going up and additional employees with higher most of our other benefits are in line with our approved budget. Salaries for a counselor includes the CAPSA, which we talked about as well. Salaries for principal and secretary in FY21 were $85,888 versus a budget of $86,484. Our utilities of $29,916 is about, again, pretty close to our budget, and again, in line with, I always go back and kind of look at the prior year, what we spent, and it's really close to what we've spent in FY20 as well. So not huge number increases in our utilities, which has been nice in the FY2021 school year. Property and equipment. So we put a new flooring in our gym, again, as a reminder, of about $18,000. And then we've also picked up some Chromebooks for this added growth that we have. And we also have the other thing that we picked up, I think it was Chromebooks and Apple computers in our CTE program. I believe that's what it was. So far this year in FY21, we've paid off about $43,000 in building principal, and our current mortgage balance there you can see is about 2.1, and we've paid off since inception of our mortgage. Of course, we've refinanced it a couple times. It's a little over $1 million. Cash at the end of March was $467,000. Cash at the end of February is $513,000. The variance there again is the COVID-19 money coming into our account at the end of February and then being spent in March. So you can see that went down. And then just some of the liabilities that we have, payroll liabilities that kind of go in and out every month. That's health insurance, taxes that we pay to the IRS for our 941 taxes that we pay to the state of Utah, such like that. Okay, any questions on any of that before we kind of get into some graphs? Okay, cash balance. Just kind of give you a history of where we've been the last 6 months. You can see our cash has held real steady. So we're basically breaking even on a cash balance, except for the 1 month where we did receive the COVID money. You can see it went up the end of February and then we spent it down. And so it's gone down again, basically where we're operating now. Head count. This is really cool. I think actually this is one of the highlights in the financials right now and a real testament to what they're doing at Fast Forward right now. That's really been positive, but you can just see the numbers speak for themselves really. We started off FY19 234, then of course FY20 came up to 260, 251, but then now, as of today, we're at 313 students. So maybe Jill and Alex, you guys want to talk about that just for a moment, and then what's been the driver of that, and just a couple of unique things that you're doing. Just take 1 minute on that.
Yeah, so we have had a huge influx of kids, and I kind of attribute it to a couple things, and maybe Kathy and Alex can add their 2 cents in as needed. And Lynn, much to our dismay, Logan has shut down their program a couple years ago, and a lot of kids coming from Logan that aren't just aren't doing the innovations program within Logan High. So we have quite a few kids come from Logan that Larry Comadina and his counselors feel like our school is a better fit for them for multiple reasons. Just they're getting the one-on-one attention, the smaller class sizes. Parents and students are loving the schedule that we offer right now, because a lot of our kids, as we know, have to work. And so with our split AM PM schedule, kids can come to school and they can help out parents that need help or get a job. So that, I feel like that's kind of what's driving a lot of our enrollment right now. Would you guys care to add anything, Kathy, Alex?
I would just say with the kids that I've met, we brought a lot of juniors in this last school year, like 95 juniors. We're gonna have a really big,
that's great,
senior class next year. And I think this year more than any year previously, like kids are coming to us because they are deficient. It's like fast forwards the saving grace for their graduation in a lot of ways to get the credit that they need on the time frame that is remaining for them. So, but also another thing, just real quick, is this is like the biggest underclass that we've had in quite a while. Typically our freshmen cap out at about 40 to 45 kids. But we've just had a ton of interest in the underclassmen this year, which has been pretty cool. So those numbers will just continue to grow with us as they move throughout their high school.
So here's a question for you. Enrollment increases are always kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, we love to have more students. They bring revenue. They typically add diversity and bring great strength to a program. They are also they also consume resources. Are we at a point where we're concerned about our capacity to serve these additional students adequately, or are we in good shape there?
So Rich, I think right now with our schedule, the way it is, we're able to keep our classroom sizes small and take care of all of our students. We have had with some of the extra money that we've gotten for the COVID stuff, like Ryan pointed out, we've been able to buy the Chromebooks as needed as kids come in, because each of our students has a Chromebook that they can take home with them, and we encourage them to bring to school with them every day. So our classroom sizes are still at where we want them to be because of our AM and PM split, and our kids that are at Bridgerland and taking concurrent enrollment classes and whatnot. So.
Well, that's exactly what I anticipated you would say, because I think that's true. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to say it and have it appear in an official record that we're keeping things in line. We're providing not just adequate, but continuing in our tradition to provide excellent service to all of our students. So I'm very pleased to hear that. Thank you.
Well, and Jill, I think you're planning on keeping the same schedule going forward, even after the 990 waiver, right?
Right. So right now,
Expires.
right now we've been doing, we're looking for feedback from parents and students. We've been working, Alex and Kathy and I have been working with our faculty on trying to provide a schedule that works. At the end of the day, our goals haven't changed. Our mission statement stays the same. We really want to help as many kids as we can and still, maintain the validity of our program. So right now, we're currently still in the process of looking at continuing our program that as is for next year. I'm just waiting on, some parent and families feedback. We've sent out some surveys and are asking for feedback as parents come into the building as well. So that's kind of where we're at in that process. And we'll update you as that information comes in. So.
Just so the board's aware, and I think Jill's talked about this and Alex, with the unique schedule that we have, it'd be hard for us to fit if everybody's coming at one time. And speaking to this, Jill and Alex, if I'm wrong, if everybody came at one time, it'd be very hard operationally for us to do 313. We couldn't do it. We've never had to be in that position because we've never had that many kids show up, but
right.
the use of the program and how we've kind of spread them out throughout the day and doing an AM PM schedule really, for one, drives kids because it gives them flexibility, but also gives us the flexibility to handle it better operationally, just simply because we don't have all of them in the building at the same time.
And those kids that are interested, those families that would like a full day type schedule, we do have options available for them, even if they're not in our building here. Kids can participate in the concurrent enrollment classes, which are in our building here, but they can also go to Bridgerland for half a day. They can do online. We have a variety of online options for kids right now. So we're trying to fit the needs for all of our students. So
From my perspective, I see there's some real schools, I think, in this, and we kind of see it too, that came out of the coronavirus. There were some things that we had to implement, or schools that really thought about it and how they were going to do education different. There were some real winners, and I think that there were some real losers. And Rich, you could probably speak to this too, because you see it. But I think one of the winners, at least in my opinion, was Fast Forward, and that the way they implemented this program and the way that they split the schedule for kids and was flexible with them. I think that you were really starting to see the fruits of being able to be a little more innovative and think about it a little bit differently, which I kind of feel that that's what they've done, which is a real benefit and a real, I guess, testimony to their willingness to be able to do that. So.
Well, I'm very proud to be associated with Fast Forward. I think this school has met the challenge and has exceeded expectations and provided a model for how schools can address the challenges of a global pandemic. Hoping that there will be a time in the future when we don't have to see this as a response to a pandemic. We can see it as just an example of excellent programming.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. If anybody had any questions, sorry, I think I cut somebody off there.
No, I was just going to turn it back to you anyway, Ryan.
Okay, thanks, Rich. And the next item down is just our showing what we've spent so far on our budget. Behind that, I won't go into detail on this, is the balance sheet, but you can look at the balance sheet if you just want to scroll down on that. Kind of shows our cash position and some of the receivables that we have. And then it kind of goes through the nuts and the bolts of the actual financial statement, which is the income statement here. And it shows you our profit and loss to our budget, what it is. And we kind of break that down and we track our budget. And at the end of the day, we're looking at what our total number is and what we are allowed to spend. And then we usually come back. So if we want to go through that and then stop at, let's see, keep going one more page down, Alex, to the 1205. Okay, this is kind of where we talk about, there are classifications of dollars that we receive that need to be spent for that specific program by statute. Probably one of the biggest ones that we have is special education, and I just refer it to 1205 SPED because that's my accounting code for it. But you can see that what we've received and then the expenses that go along with that. Right now, I think we have about $64,000 in there, but that's pretty normal for us because that doesn't include any of our special ed director's salary in it. So by the time we move that over at the end of the year and put some additional salaries in there, we're usually pretty much at a break-even point. In fact, the last few years, we've supplemented our SPED program with funds from our general budget, which is okay to do. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's just, SPED is such a integral part of what Fast Forward does that we serve so many special ed students and we do it well that it's just part of what we do. So it makes sense. The next one down would be concurrent enrollment. And you can kind of see there's not a lot of funds there actually. But we do have a concurrent enrollment teacher. Okay, next one on is at risk. These are funding about $30,000, and this helps pay for just an extra aid. Kids that are at risk, and we kind of write that into the plan that we deem at risk of not graduating, at risk of several different things. There's a lot of ways that we measure that, but we do provide extra help with them, and there's dollars that are tied to that. The next one is trust lands. And 41,000, you can see we have about 4,000 left there. Those dollars will be spent by the end of the year. That's just paying for one of our teachers that was in our Trust Lands program and the services that they provide. So Jill will talk a little bit about that in a little bit. The next one, COVID stipend. We received $63,000 in COVID stipend money from the state. We've spent about $50,000 of that. So we owe a check back to the state of Utah for $13,144. We need to cut that back to them, and we'll be doing so shortly. The next one is IDA SPED. This is our special ed director's salary, and we'll be using that to pay. We use those funds to pay for her. Title I, 42,000, that's for our teacher that we pay for our extra math teacher that we hire through our Title I funding that we do. And then the last item there is just our allotment memo that we receive from the state every month. So you can kind of see the dollars that are coming in each program and the ones that we get every month, and then how much we still have left to receive there. So that's kind of what we use for that report. So
Ryan, I typically ask the following question when we do this. There are lots of numbers on these reports, and you always do a very nice job of keeping us well informed and keeping us on track as well. So I've got two questions. You can answer them in the order you choose. One, is there anything in this budget report that would be a cause for alarm that you'd like to bring the board's attention to? And second, there are a number of accounts that show a negative balance right now, which is not unusual at this time of year. And so we always look for reassurance that there is a plan to deal with all of those things.
well, let me address the first question that you have there. So there's nothing, it's very typical. This year operating has been very typical of past year's operating. Last year we had a really good operating year as well. In fact, we were able to eliminate some of our negative net asset, which we have in our audit. And now I won't get a lot of detail into that, but Fast Forward actually has a positive net asset considering that they've paid for all of their depreciation too. So this report doesn't show a depreciation expense in it, but I do show the depreciation for in our final budget number, which I try to put a final budget together and show depreciation in there. But when we convert our books to GAAP from FASB, which we currently use, then we actually have to account and show our depreciation, which a lot of charter schools, it's not uncommon for them to have a negative net asset position. And then you get a letter from the state saying, why are you in a negative net asset position? And of course, then a lot of charter schools have had to explain simply that it's depreciation. So we've talked about that a lot. Fast Forward, to their credit, is not in that position. But we had been whittling down our net assets over the course of 3 or 4 years just because our student headcount dipped. I think it was when they opened the new high schools, and you guys kind of remember, if you look back at our student headcount, it did dip down there a little bit. And then now it's come right back up, which is great. So your first question, to answer, there's no, I wouldn't say that there's any concern as far as that would be on a material level. So again, I can't think of any. It's pretty much operating like it has normally over the past several years. So I actually think that there's a lot of optimism going forward. And I think we talked about some of those challenges that there'll be with the more students, but I think that there's a pretty good plan in place for that. So to your second question, Rich, the negative numbers, that's actually for, if I could just point some of those out, I think you're looking at maybe in the health insurance and the health benefits area, it's under negative, like -3, -7. Those are actually, those are contra accounts that we use. And so they're usually tied to a payroll, some kind of, for instance, when we withhold funding from a paycheck for health insurance, it hits that account. So it actually shows it coming back to us. So if you see a negative number on an income statement on an expense, that's actually a positive in a weird way. So does that kind of clarify that? Is that the negative number you were talking about?
Yeah, and there are some, I mean, in the individual accounts, just because of the time of year,
Yeah,
they show that
That's right.
there
Yeah.
is a negative balance, but it's only because of when it happens.
that's right. Yeah, and some of it is timing. And they'll be negative as far as like some of it we've shown the expense in it, but we haven't shown any revenue just simply because we haven't received the revenue. Or we'll have, if we have like a huge positive number, like in our sped number, you say, well, we've got $60,000 that we need to spend before the end of the year. That's kind of a timing thing simply too, because that'll actually, we actually need to use those funds to pay us through August. So we've got several more months of expenses to go into those.
Okay. Any other questions from any board members?
No,
All right.
Like,
Oh.
yeah, let me know if you ever have questions, please do. And we post this to our webpage as well. So if you don't have a copy here, you can always go to our webpage and look at the last several ones. Our board meeting minutes, our board, you can actually listen to any of our board recordings as well. Alex posts those up there. So
Well, it's not uncommon for us to say at this point, thank you, Ryan, for ensuring the financial health and well-being of Fast Forward Charter High School. So thank you again very much.
thanks for that. I think Jill and Alex and the team up there, they do. I mean, when they have a lot of my job, and that, we focus a lot on this, especially during the financial report, is, where are we financially? And unfortunately, there's almost a disproportionate amount of pressure sometimes it's put on the financials of a charter school. And I guess that's for good reason, but all that stuff basically goes away when a school is run well, and Fast Forward is run well by a great administration. And so the students show up. So anyway,
Well,
thanks for that.
we're grateful to have such a good team. So if there aren't any other comments or questions or concerns, let's move to item number 3 on the agenda, the Special Ed Policy and Procedures Manual. And Jill and Kathy are both listed on that. I don't know how you're going to do this, but let's turn it to the two of you.
Thanks, Rich. I'm going to just turn it actually over to Kathy. She's going to kind of walk us through what this means.
Okay, if you'll scroll down to the table of contents. Whoa, table of contents. That was probably enough. So the federal government updated the laws that manage how special ed is run as far as the policies and the procedures, which then the state updated their rules about how it should be done. And they gave us a template to take and make sure we followed what they suggested, so that we had covered every single law and didn't get ourselves in trouble. So what I did is I took the state template and edited it to fit our school situation. And then I sent it to the state for review to make sure that it matched all of the requirements and the guidelines. And they've given their approval that yes, it does match and it's covered all the laws. So if you'll notice, it's a pretty long document, but it goes through all the different pieces of special ed. So identification of students, how we do referrals, how we do evaluations, how we do the IEP process, procedural safeguards in the least restrictive environment, parent involvement, discipline. It's like all covered in there. And I'm more than happy to make edits based on the board's concerns. There are some constraints that I have to follow that in order to meet the state requirements. So at moment, this document has been approved by the state in that it meets all the minimum requirements.
All right, so this requires board action to approve this policy manual. Is that correct, Kathy?
Yes, that's correct.
And let me just review and summarize here. This has already been approved by the State Charter School Board. Is that correct?
The Utah Board of Education Special Ed Department has gone through it and made sure that it matched all of the requirements that they have.
Okay. So is there anything that would represent a substantial change in practice or anything that would be unusual that we ought to review as a board? Or is this pretty much a standard package of procedures?
It's pretty much standard package except for one item. So the state or the federal government and the state no longer does the qualification for a specific learning disability based on a discrepancy. In the old school time, your IQ was at a certain level, and if your achievement was below that, they said you had a discrepancy, and so you had a learning disability. That's no longer, it's sunsetted. That's no longer the situation. And so we had two options. We could go to a response to intervention, or we could do with a new research-based patterns of strengths and weaknesses. The state's still in the process of defining patterns and strengths and weaknesses, so we went with the more conservative approach with response to intervention, which we kind of do as a school already, where we're really working to help these students do better and do intervention before we say, oh, you have a disability of some kind. So in order to qualify as a response to intervention, we have to show that they've had multiple attempts at interventions and it's still not working, and so something else needs to be done, and then assessment is done from there. So that's the only substantial change from
Yeah,
what we've done.
The RTI approach seems to me to be a more functional approach, whereas the other approach tends to focus more on inputs rather than outputs. Isn't that correct, Kathy?
Yeah, it is. I mean, both of them would work, but this one fits into what we're already doing easiest and gives us an opportunity to look really closely at what our intervention approach is, and it just makes for better practice.
I agree. I think that's wonderful. Any questions from the board members?
No?
No.
If one of you would like to introduce a motion in a second, the chair would accept. Just state your name when you do it, and then we'll make sure that the record has everything we need.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we accept this special ed policy. Lynn Hobbs.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second the motion. Teresa Olson.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this special education policy and procedure manual as presented. And do we have any further questions? In that case, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? I believe this motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move to the next item on the agenda, number 4, Title IX policy. Jill, I guess we're back to you. Thank you, by
Oh,
the
yeah.
way.
Thanks, Kath. So the Title IX policy adoption we got some guidance and / instruction from the state saying that we needed to have Title IX updates available on our website. So we went through and updated policies according to what the state asked us to do. I'm kind of following what Rich just asked Kathy about if there was any major changes to what we're already doing. No, we basically had to identify a Title IX person that can take complaints. So that is Karen, our counselor. She's going to be doing that. But other than that, I don't think there was any changes. Alex, did I miss any of that?
Nope, that was good. The training that we sent out to I didn't include in this, but it's just the training that we have to have all faculty members do at the beginning of every year. So
It's a slideshow PowerPoint presentation. It's pretty exciting. It just basically walks them through what kind of Title IX, what our policy looks like and what's available here at the school. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but that's it.
Any questions from the board?
No,
Do we need to know any more before we entertain a motion? Okay, the chair is ready to accept a motion if there is one.
All motion to approve. This is Kim Penman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Lynn Hobbs.
Wonderful. Moved and seconded that we accept the Title IX policy as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, should there be any? Another unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Alex, I think we're off to you now. Item number 5, data privacy policy.
All right, mine should go pretty quick. This is a model policy that we just adopted, or I adapted for Fast Forward. This last legislative session, they passed a couple more data privacy things that we have to bring into policy at our school. If you remember, I think last fall, we revisited the data governance policy that I put together. And it just talks about like our safeguards, who to contact if there's a breach, that type of privacy information that we house at the school on all of our students. So just making sure we have the proper safeguards for FERPA, Utah FERPA, and all those kind of fun things. So this one's called the PPRA. This one that we're adopting, or I'm asking for adoption today, is dealing with surveys. This one has to do with any survey that we administer at the school. So this year we had to do a state climate survey, school climate survey, and it asks questions about bullying, sexting, and different things where tobacco use, drug use, where the kid, it's an anonymous survey, but it's still asking them sensitive information that could be incriminating to a degree. And so any survey that we administer that talks about political affiliations, mental or physical problems, sexual behavior, orientation, or attitudes, illegal or demeaning behavior, critical appraisal, legally privileged relationships with lawyers or doctors, religious practices, and then income as it pertains to their parents. Anything that we ask that is a survey that's not like our financial, when we do our free and reduced, when they apply for school lunch, that doesn't fall under this. It has to do specifics with surveys. So as of right now, our school climate survey that we did, the state issued version, is the only survey that we have that falls under this policy. If we ever do the SHARP survey, is another one that if we decide to administer it, I have to write it into our PPRA and give notice to parents that we will be asking their children to participate. And there is opt-out options for parents as well. And this survey too is an opt-out, not an opt-in. So every kid is, we have the expectation that they'll participate unless we have a specific parent opt-out for the survey. And that's that.
So this is what we sometimes call in the field a passive permission. Permission is assumed unless you choose to opt out.
Correct. Yep. Same with like statewide testing stuff too.
Right, exactly. Questions from the board?
No.
All right, now this is the policy we're looking at, Alex. This is a policy that doesn't currently exists. This isn't a modification of a previous policy. This is a new policy in response to new circumstances. Is that correct?
Correct. USBE released the model and they just had us adapt it. So this top part is the state's verbiage. And then down here is where we add in the specifics for our school. So the surveys that we use that fall under this policy. But
Oh.
yes, it's a new policy for adoption.
Okay, appreciate the clarification. Questions from the board? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve the data privacy policy.
And a
I
second?
will, I will second the motion. Teresa Olson.
Wonderful, thank you. Any further question on this? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Should there be any? Okay, hearing none, I think we have unanimous approval there as well. And now, thank you, Alex. Now we're back to Jill. Item number 6, calendar for the 2021-22 school year, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes. Man, this has been an exciting board meeting. I love policies. So
Oh,
here we go.
listen, there is nothing, we can't have a board meeting. So this is an exciting board meeting.
This is gonna make it even more exciting. The calendar for next year.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah, here we go. Well, it's pretty closely mirroring Logan City School Districts, which we normally do. Here it is. There's not much more to say about it other than this is it. Does anybody have any questions on it?
well, is there anything that is different or unusual, anything that we should be aware of? If it follows the same model and is essentially the same calendar we've had in the past, corrected, just adjusted by the way the dates fall out, then that's one thing. If there's nothing beyond that, then
No, it's pretty normal.
all right.
I'm happy to say we get a week-long spring break. I'm happy to say we get a good 2-week break in December. Other than that, I mean, everything's pretty well per the norm, so.
Are we all expecting to congregate at Disneyland for spring break? Are there any plans there?
Not for me. My kids will tell you, we don't go anywhere. We'll congregate at Burger King. That's about as far as we're going. But
There you go. That's the attitude. We're all working right through spring break.
yes,
Okay.
so
Questions? Anything from the board? All right. Do we have a motion to accept the calendar?
I will make the motion to accept the calendar for 21-22 as Jill has presented it. Teresa Olson.
Thank you, Teresa. Second,
I can second it. Lynn Hobbs.
thank you, Lynn. If there are no further questions, I'm going to place this then for board approval. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Another unanimous vote. This, we need a little controversy in this board, and not really. I'm okay with no controversy. I just don't want anybody to feel like we're pushing things through.
we need Janice. We need Janice back.
We do. Maybe we should take all of these items and send them to Janice and see what she has to say.
She probably would appreciate it. So.
She would. We miss Janice. How's she doing, by the way?
Doing pretty good.
That's great.
So, yeah, she's doing okay.
Good.
I'm glad to hear it. Jill, do you want to run us through the principal's report? And I think we're finished with board action, right?
Yes,
Officially.
we are. Yes.
So all that's left is to hear your principal's report and then the resounding applause that will certainly come at the conclusion.
Well, it's probably more for the board meeting being over. I know some of these aren't that exciting, but we appreciate you guys sticking with us for an hour. I just wanted to give you kind of a quick update about how the school year's been going and a graduation report. We're going to do graduation a little bit differently than we traditionally do and a little different than we did last year. This year we have 89 seniors and 6 juniors graduating. We're pretty proud of these kids and all the hard work and the challenges they've overcome. So this year graduation will be held at the school. It will be held inside. I know last year we did it outside and it was really hot. And so we're unable to use the venue at Utah State. So we're planning on holding graduation here. You guys will get your invite in a couple of weeks. Graduation is on May 26th. It's a Wednesday at 2 p.m. If you can come, we'd love to have you meet our students and their families and help us hand out some diplomas. So we'll be doing some live broadcasts like we did last year. We're going to have Lagoon Day this year. We're pretty excited about that. Our kids are pretty excited. They worked really hard and deserve kind of a fun day. So we're going to be taking kids to Lagoon the week before. We've already talked about student head count and schedule. What else is exciting that's happening? We've got a pretty neat, our art ambassadors is coming. They're having a kind of an art ambassador show outside on Friday night, 8:30. If you're driving around after you take your sweetheart to dinner and want to stop by the school, there's going to be a little art ambassador showing out here in the front of the school. And then we will be doing another one on May 12th up at Utah State. I'll send you guys some more information on that. And basically what we do during those times, we have 6 art ambassadors, and these are students that really excel in one of our areas of art. We have the visual arts, the music and the radio broadcasting department, and then our video classes. So 2 students in each of those areas are selected each year for a scholarship from the school. And they have done, to qualify, they have to have pretty outstanding work and be committed to the program and give service back to the school and the students. And so these are really hardworking kids that do an amazing job in their area of interest. So if you have time, I'll send you more information, but if you guys have time, please stop by and just recognize these kids. These students will also be recognized at graduation. Sorry, Teresa.
I said that will be great. Yes, send the information, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to see them. They do a lot of good work, and anyway, they're amazing. And they're very much looked up to by younger students for the next year's graduating classes. So it's a big deal, and we want to make sure these kids are recognized. So Alex has got some information on there. That's not the Utah State one, and I'll let you know when that is. The Utah Theater is just for the video students that are presenting some video work. But anyway, I'll get those emails sent out. That's pretty much it. It's been kind of a quiet year with all of our, the coronavirus and the struggles associated with that. But we've made it through. These students are pretty resilient, and our faculty are outstanding and have really helped these kids and met them where they are and helped get them through. As you guys know, most of you know our counselor, Karen, her son passed away this spring, and it's kind of been sad the last couple months, but she's done a really outstanding job helping kids get through the end of the year. And we've had some amazing faculty members that have helped carry her load and made it, made graduation possible for these kids. Karen's an integral part of our program. And so to have her down and out this time of year it's been hard, but we've got an amazing group of people here. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We just installed, Alex installed some vape detectors for the bathrooms just to help keep our security tight.
Good deal.
Yeah, I know. So far, they've been working great. I'm sure you guys wanted to hear about that, but that's about as exciting as it gets around here. So
Good.
anyway,
I don't know that any one of us would express concern that things aren't more exciting.
No,
I know.
not me.
I know.
And I am very grateful for the wonderful job that you and Alex do. Both of you, thank you for
Oh,
making it such a great school.
oh yeah.
I
no
echo that.
No problem. Alex is my right hand, and he sure helps me out and keeps things afloat. He's got about 20 jobs, so I sure appreciate him and Ryan for keeping us all straightened out.
Good.
Anyway,
Is pretty much the staff going to stay intact for next year? Great.
right. Yep, we do. We've got our staff, everybody's staying on. We do have one kid. I call him our kid because he was our AmeriCorps student from Utah State for quite a few years, and then we hired him on as a social studies teacher. He's decided to go off and get married. I've warned him, but he decided to do it, and so he's moving down to Layton area and got a job, and so yeah, that's everybody staying on but Greg. So
Oh,
You-
good.
sure
you
gonna
should
miss
let
him.
him know. You should let him know that married people can continue to work at Fast Forward.
I did. I told him, and I said, "Look at us. Look at the rest of us. I mean, we're making it happen. We're all of us are so happy." And anyway, he said he's got to move down there to make her happy. So I said, "Well, when you're done with that, come on back."
You mean you're already planning on him divorcing or what?
No. I'm just saying when he's done making her happy after the honeymoon
Oh.
period's over, I give him a year. He can come
Okay.
on back when she's ready and they're ready to settle down, and she's going to school down there. So he thinks
I
he's got to
see.
move down there with her for that. So anyway,
Well,
It took me the
Let's-
better part of 20 years to figure that out.
Did it?
Yeah, how to try to make your wife happy. I'm still working on it. He's got it figured out. He's not even married yet.
no, yep, she'll be happy. So
those
anyway,
those are lessons that take a lifetime.
someone tell my husband that'd be nice.
Yeah. Hey, for the, I've been affiliated with the school for a few years now, and but this is the first year I've had the kind of personal interest in the school, having a family member as a student, and so I get an extra valuable perspective, and I have to tell you that it's very positive. So you can't hide some things, and you don't need to hide these things, because Sadie speaks volumes about how grateful she is to the staff and faculty and the administration. Everybody, she's a little concerned about the board president, but everything else she says is absolutely wonderful. So thank you all very much.
That's good
Yes.
feedback. I appreciate that. So
Okay.
Anything else we need to cover?
no,
Well, in that case, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't go at least 90 minutes. So maybe we can get Alex to just play some music for us, and we can all stay on for another, 24, 25 minutes? Or we can say, thank you very much, folks. And we look forward to our next board meeting, probably in June, you think?
yes.
Okay.
Thank-
Thank you all. Appreciate your service.
you.
Board members and those of you at Fast Forward, appreciate everything you do every day. Thanks
Yep,
again.
Thank you guys for supporting.
Thanks.